Okay, I'd like to call to order the regular council meeting for the town of Didsbury for Monday, December 15th. The time is 5 o'clock exactly. First item, adopt the agenda as amended.
I move that council adopt the agenda as amended. We need to add an item in closed. I think it would be 12.4. Is there something we would be calling it?
Call it trade mission discussions.
Trade mission discussions.
Okay. To vote. All in favor? Opposed? So carried. So I don't think we have any delegations. To move on to item 4 on the agenda, which is the adoption of the minutes from November 25th, 2025 regular council meeting.
Move to adopt the November 25th, 2025 regular council meeting minutes as presented.
All in favor? Opposed? So carried. This is on to the CAO report. Everyone's had time to review that. Can I get a motion for the CAO report then?
I move that council accept the CAO report as information.
Okay. We'll open up the floor to debate. Are there any questions, comments?
Just give me a second. Someone else does it. Okay. I know this question can't probably be answered here tonight because I don't think anyone from bylaws here, but did we actually pull over a gentleman going 99 kilometers an hour in a 50-kilometer-hour zone on 20th Avenue towards Highway 582? How do you get to that speed in that section? I know there's no answer. I'm just bringing it to light, the amount of speed that this gentleman was traveling at. Or I shouldn't say gentleman, I don't know, this person.
I was kind of shocked by the sheer number of violations that there were, so. Are there any other?
Just maybe it's more appropriate for the Protective Services third quarter report. No, that's where we're at, right? So I noticed that there's tickets being included in the jurisdiction between the east side boundary and 2A. Is that part of our jurisdiction? Maybe that's something that can't be answered either.
I would wager that because we can perform moving violations, we may be authorized under the Traffic Safety Act too, but generally we stay in the boundary. Now, if the call began inside our boundary and then we had to pursue them outward, then it becomes a provincial ticket that we would then hand over to the province and they would collect any fine revenue and things of that nature as well. But we're still keeping the road safe from speeders either way, so.
Yeah. Maybe that's something we can find out whether or not these locations are where the stop was initiated or where the stop actually wound up.
And it looks like the grouping of tickets are on 582, right by, and if it's where they are stopped and ticketed, that's right by the west side there by those acreages. That looks like the strongest number of ticketing, and also then going down the hill on 582 towards the stop sign. So the thought crossed my mind to reduce the speeding. Is it worth considering a speed radar flashing sign for the town with placement in primary violation areas? How much do they cost? I see it in some towns where they've got something that will help reduce the number of tickets that are being made, and whether that actually happens when you have those signs. Is there the basis for slowing people down because of it?
Certainly, there's always the argument for preventative features like traffic calming signs like that. The question becomes, do you want to have that amended and added into the budget based on costing in the first quarter once we go to the final round of amendments before passing our tax bylaw? Do you want to talk with your citizenry on what kinds of other traffic calming ideas they may want you to consider? You don't have to open up the whole can of worms. Now that we've discussed it publicly, if everyone who's watching knows that there is not actually a radar taking a photo of you, will it continue to be effective? The flashing sights with the speed that changes, though, definitely have a calming effect on my heavy foot. So I would imagine we're all human that it may also work for others. Yes. Administration can look into it however you like us to.
I would think using the resources that we have in place with our enforcement officers already focusing their efforts there might just be enough to help in those key areas.
Okay, and if it's something that can be considered in the future, it doesn't have to be immediate. I'm just throwing it out there as a thought.
Well, just given the nature of 582, I think that's where we're going to see a lot of our worst offenders, right? So.
Yeah, and I think when I see the speed limits that people are achieving, I'm for them being pulled over and ticketed. We tried the warning thing, and it really fell short. And the bylaw was instructed, as well as the RCMP, focus was stop the education and start ticketing. And if it gets expensive enough, maybe they'll slow down. We don't need people injured on our streets. 100 kilometers an hour in town is just absolutely unacceptable.
I find myself going too slow sometimes. Get a little too. Anyway, I can't imagine doing 100 down 20. That's just, wow, unacceptable. Any further comments on the CAO report? No? Okay, put to a vote. All in favor? Opposed? So carried. Okay. Takes us on to item number 7. Bylaws and policies. 7.1 is repealing bylaw 2025-18. Has everybody had a chance to review that? I'm sorry, Kurt, go ahead. Sure, thank you.
I move the council grant first reading to repealing bylaw 2025-18.
All in favor?
Yeah, can we discuss? Oh, have you already been that?
No, that's fine. Yep.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Just a question. Will this include door-to-door sales licensing?
Yeah.
If it's a business in town.
Okay.
Sorry, Councillor Quantz. The only way that it may not is if hawker peddler licensing is expressly provided for as a requirement in the land use bylaw, where it may sometimes show up in municipalities, but I'm getting the signal from staff it's not there. So yes, the hawker peddler license requirement also goes away. People are free to come and do business in Didsbury without the extra administrative step as per the request of council.
So just a question. Will this have some unintended consequences of a plethora of unwelcome door-to-door salespeople targeting our town? Just a question.
Well, I seem to get those anyway, but that's, yeah, I would say that's a possibility.
Hard to gauge is the administration's response, Councillor Engel.
I agree. I had one at my door yesterday. I asked for a business license. They could not provide it. So the issue we have with business licenses, I see people in town paving and doing all kinds of stuff without. I think that this council can certainly very quickly come back and create something. Because my question too was, this should be an advantage for our local merchants. I think we should probably still continue on getting the bylaw passed if that's the will. But we can bring back that if you're from out of town, you certainly can require licensing. And that's up to council to decide, and I would recommend that we do that. That gives our businesses a little bit of an advantage, but I don't know how people are controlling the non-licensing. As the mayor said, they just show up.
We could come up with a more targeted bylaw that covers that, I'm sure.
And I don't mind passing this, like I'm in favor of passing it now.
Yeah, that's a good
And
question.
just being attentive to what's actually happening.
That's a fair
If we
point.
need to bring it back, thanks.
Any other questions or comments? I apologize for jumping into the vote on that, sorry, that's my bad. No? Okay. So, all in favor? Opposed? Okay.
And I move the council grant second reading to repealing bylaw 2025-18.
And I'll just make sure I don't repeat the same mistake. Are there any comments or concerns here?
I had an editing, just a few editing questions with it. Page 22, if I'm, is that the right one? 22?
That is the new bylaw, yeah.
Okay. Where it talks about, after the second whereas, take out the following whereas. We have too many whereases, I think. If you can find that.
I see two, Norma. Are you saying that there's a third in your copy?
No, the second line,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
whereas it comes Didsbury.
Gotcha.
That's one editing suggestion I have. And then also in that sentence to read that have become obsolete, and it says become ineffectual. Oh, it's changed. Where is that at? I'm sorry. It says it the way it's supposed to now. That have become ineffectual or are no longer aligned. That's okay. I thought there was the word obsolete in there. That's all. Thank you.
CO, how do we handle it?
Can you restate the edit that you're looking for?
Just the whereas. Take the second whereas.
Second paragraph of whereas, there's whereas twice in a row, so it's just a,
Typographical, we can catch that in the clean copy, or hang on a second. Please, Ms. Baxter, feel free to use the microphone.
Thank you,
Imbue us
Mr.
with
Chair.
your knowledge.
The second whereas and then doing it now therefore, that's common structure for bylaw writing. I know that grammatically it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but that's the common structure.
sure, perfect. Thank you for the clarification. Anything further on the second reading then? No? Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, so carried. Pardon me? No, it's not carried yet. Pardon me. Forgive me. Kurt?
So do I move to it, or just, I would move then to unanimous consent to proceed to the third reading of repealing bylaw 2025-18.
Okay. All in favor?
Okay, and I move the council grant third and final reading to repealing bylaw 2025-18.
Any further comments, questions? No? No? All in favor? Opposed? No? So carried. And that brings us to item 7.2 on the agenda, which is rates, fees, and fines by law 2025-19. Councillor Murray. Could I get a motion?
I move that the council grant first reading to rates, fees, and fines bylaw 2025-19.
Thank you. Is there comments or concerns? Open up the floor to debate.
Just one, probably still possible to change it. Number 8 on the repeal. The following bylaw are hereby repealed, and just put the plural on that bylaws, since there's a number of bylaws. That would be the only one I can think of.
Sorry, can you restate that, Norm? Sorry.
Yeah, number 8, page 27, repeal. The following bylaw are hereby repealed, just making that plural. So I know it's getting technical.
So just to read the following bylaws, plural.
Make it plural, yeah.
Any other comments? Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Okay.
Move that the council grant second reading of the rates, fees, and fines bylaw 2025-19.
Anything further? Okay. All in favor? Opposed?
I move that council grant unanimous consent to proceed to third and final reading of the rates, fees, and fines bylaw 2025-19.
All in favor? Opposed? Okay. Last vote.
I move that council grant third and final reading to the rates, fees, and fines bylaw of 2025-19.
All in favor? Opposed? So carried. It takes us to item 7.3 on the agenda, which is utility charges bylaw 2025-20.
I move that council grant first reading to utility charges bylaw 2025-20.
Thank you. I'll open up the floor to debate. Questions? Comments? Okay. Put it to a vote then. All in favor? Opposed?
I move that council grant second reading to utility charges bylaw 2025-20.
Anything further from council? Questions? No? Okay. All in favor? Opposed?
I move that council grant unanimous consent to proceed to third reading of utility charges bylaw 2025-20.
All in favor? Opposed?
I move that council grant third and final reading to utility charges bylaw 2025-20.
All those in favor? Opposed? So carried.
Thank you very much for those, council.
Okay, that takes us to item 8 on the agenda, which is new business. Item 8-1, accessibility parking allocation request.
I will turn that over to my Director of Public Works, Craig Fox.
council. We've had a request from a resident to apply a accessibility parking space in front of the home. This one's down in Valarosa Drive, number 6, just in from the corner of the subdivision entrance. Administration doesn't have any concerns with this request at this time. Happy to answer any questions.
And I'm understanding this is a designated street parking space?
Yeah, the applicant or the requester is mobility impaired, and so have access for the handy bus and such to be able to come in and park. They've asked for this parking spot. According to the bylaw, this is council's jurisdiction for traffic control measures. So the administration sort of receives requests and brings them directly to you. So,
Okay. Is there comments or questions? We'll get the motion afterwards.
I'm going to talk about it, but
Go ahead, because I just got off the phone and I don't think I have as much information as you do on this.
I'd like to read the statement. At first, I mean, it's important to get this request right. It's a sensitive issue, and it may be useful to develop a policy to guide applications for individualized residential accessibility parking, unless we already have one. Maybe we do. Do we have one?
No formal policy exists. This is just what we've been using that's worked so far.
Okay. So, consideration of setting a precedent for individual residential accessibility parking around town. Make sure it's from pin to pin, for example, rather than hedge or tree or fence, feature to feature. Is there potentially property struggles happening between neighbors? Not saying that there is here. Have neighbors' needs or impact been considered? The neighborhood, such as a neighbor's need also for accessibility parking, or how a bus door lines up with the residence, sidewalk, etc. What are all the issues behind the request? And in a tight parking area, which that is, I lived in this residence actually. In a tight parking area, what impact will it have on the neighborhood? Visitors and guests, since there's no parking available there, for those who don't have a handicap, does that put pressure more on a tight parking area? And what happens when they move and no accessibility is needed for that resident again? These are issues that may arise if other requests are made. And maybe it's not a precedent already being set, but if it is, I'm just wondering how it will affect if we have more and more wanting access and their front space being designated as handicapped. And I'm not sure what the alternative is, carry on as they've been doing, but that's what I'd like to put on the table.
Question for Director Fox through the CAO. How many of these do we currently have in town?
I'm not familiar with the quantity that we have around town, but I do know that it has been done previously. There's an example on the block just to the north of us here where the resident has a wheelchair signs put up because they are a handicapped resident. So like I say, the bylaw just sort of stipulates that this is council's jurisdiction, and we just bring the information forward to you at this time. So.
If council wanted to have administration together something that ties into or shoots off of our traffic bylaw, it can be done. My understanding in practice is that we typically cannot designate a parking spot like that of that nature in front of a personal residence or private residence exclusively for that person. I think the practice is that anybody who has a placard can use it, and it would be there for the duration of the resident who holds the placard living in that residence. Afterwards, it can go back from blue to yellow or be blasted off. But it certainly would be convenient for them to know that there is a reserved set of space in front of their residence for community transportation that's specific to their needs, can park and access. So these are factors you could consider. More formally, I mean, we could do a policy, or it could become some sort of subset of regulations within the traffic bylaw as well. Either or. One is stronger than the other as an instrument, I would say consider whether you want to create a positive obligation to give the space as long as certain criteria are met, so that there's some consistency for the applicants who are disadvantaged mobility-wise that want to know for sure that this isn't going to become a big debate about whether the neighbors can trump them based on, well, we've seen other characteristics come in under appeal for various things. So it's council's intention to try to draft a policy that inures to the benefit of the applicant. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah.
Okay. So we can work on something like that if it's the wish of council. Just give me a motion and direct us to do so. And we can talk about timelines and components and criteria. But today, yes or no under the current authority you have would also be helpful. And then we can formalize it a little better. What are your thoughts?
I have a couple concerns. One is that there's, as Norm maybe sort of alluded to, is that there's more to this issue than just having a designated parking for a disabled person. But I would be open to considering it as long as it's clear that that spot is for any disabled person, not for the homeowner that lives there specifically, because we don't do designated parking on streets for residents. Those spots are available to anyone who chooses to park there, first come, first serve. This would just be a handicap, disabled, first come, first serve, I guess, in this case.
I think, I know Councillor Mahoney is about to go. I would just say that I think we would certainly codify the current practice in writing so that it's clear. Yeah, that it's for anyone, but that's where that spot happens to be for now.
We need a motion for that, if you want to.
Just before I got to council here tonight, I got a call from the next door neighbor to this applicant. And apparently it's been an ongoing fight with parking back and forth as of all of Valrosa's very tight for parking. Apparently the applicant won't let anybody park in front of his house, including his own guests. They come to his house, so they park in front of the neighbors. So it's an ongoing fight with like 4 or 5 neighbors down there, from what I understand. And now he's going to use this as a trump card to stop anybody from parking in front of his house. So I think we need to make a clear policy on if you have a handicap, like Chris said, you have a handicap sticker, you can park there. It's not owned by the person that owns the house. That's just my comments from the neighbors. And the other thing is too is for building permits, we go around 4 houses. We interview all the neighbors and see what they think of this.
It's a valid point. It might require some consultation, I guess would be the best way to put it.
Well, we do it with permitting for building structures and that sort of thing. So if we're going to make a designated parking spot in front of one person's house, I think all the neighbors should be aware of it before it happens.
Any other thoughts? I'd like to hear from some of the other council.
I have cars parked in front of my house all the time. I have a double lot. It's big, and I get pissed off every time someone is parked in front because they use it for parallel parking practice all the time. So I come home and there's people parallel parking. They love it. They just love my spot. But it's, I think there needs to be more information. Like, I don't want to say I don't believe this person or anything like that. Is this like, all I have is this person requesting this right now. This has all been substantiated. They use the handy bus all the time. Like, this is the level of their mobility. Or are we setting a precedent to, neighbors can just get this willy-nilly? I don't see any other information here than someone's requesting a spot. So, and if there's people having an issue with it and it's very tight, that's an issue to me.
That's right.
So I'm kind of coming at it from the other side. We deal with some mobility issues, and the handicapped or disability parking spots definitely serve a great purpose. I do agree that it should not be limited to one person, like that only one person can park there. If it is accepted, it is designated as a disabled or I don't know that we usually, I guess it's still handicap, I don't know. But that it is very clear that it is not a personal parking spot for one individual. It is designated as for handicap. But again, as Councillor Lambert said, we're coming at this with very little information. I don't know anything about the level of mobility and the degree at which it's a tough decision to make without having more facts, I guess, for me.
I agree. I think we've got about a quarter of the picture that we need to see to make a decision on this. Anyone disagree? I would like that.
I move that administration take this discussion and develop some parameters around a parking space such as this. Is that too big? Okay.
Any further debate on the motion as put forward?
We did, yeah, just his motion, right? We didn't make a motion.
No, we haven't made any others. Okay. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? So carried. Okay, item 8.2 is the 2026 capital budget. Somebody like to put forward a motion for me?
There's a little bit of information in there.
I can give a motion and discussion.
Yeah. Yes, please.
I move to adopt the 2026 capital budget as presented, totaling an estimated amount of $1,314,000 and funded from the following sources: operations, $36,108; reserves, $619,201; and provincial grants, $553,500; and other grants, $105,191.
Okay, I'll open the floor up to debate. Comments, questions, if there are any. No?
You want it?
No? Okay, go ahead, Norm.
Go ahead.
Page 62. I hope that's still the same page. On the virtual machine server upgrade, has a grant funding source been pursued?
A PA message for the CAO.
Thank you. We haven't pursued a grant for this. You could always use the CCBF grant or the LGFF grant. Would likely qualify. However, typically those grant funds are saved for road projects rather than, and like heavy equipment if required, rather than server upgrades.
I was just thinking there should be some kind of a technical grant available, technology upgrades, etc., that doesn't take away from our roads and stuff. That's the mindset I have.
There's no grant that I'm aware of that would cover that, unfortunately.
Okay. Anything further? Go ahead, Norm.
Got another one, sorry. I'm not sorry.
Turn your mic on.
I'm not sorry. Oh. On page 64, the deferral impact, does this crossing need crossing arms, as is mentioned? Would just lights be suitable for how infrequently a train runs this crossing? For example, 582 crossing doesn't have arms, and there was just a mention of crossing arms at the bottom of that title, deferral impact. It says of crossing arms and lights, and I'm just wondering if we're considering the whole shooting shabagle or not.
To the best of my knowledge, the gates come with the package when you pull the stop sign out. We can double check that in our conversations with CPKC once we get going in that dialogue. But I have always understood it that that's a full suite of measures that come together, and that is what you have to have in place in exchange for pulling out the stop sign. But we can double check on it.
Yeah, if there was a less costly version, obviously we would like to explore that, because the price tag for that is fairly steep, so yeah, it's a valid point. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Quantz. That's it, okay. Anything else? No? Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, so carried. Item 8.3 is the 2026 to 2030 multi-year capital plan.
I move to adopt the 2026-2030 multi-year capital plan.
Open up the floor to debate, comments, questions. No? Okay. Put to vote then. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, so carried. That brings us to item 8.4, which is the 2026 operating budget. Troy, you want to put forward a motion on that? When you get to it.
Move to adopt the 2029 multi-year operating plan as presented.
We are on
Page 80.
Oh, sorry, that's
8.4, the operating budget, Troy.
Oh, that's the sorry. Oh, sorry. To approve the 2026 operating budget with the total revenues before the municipal tax levy of $7,883,235 and a total expenditures of $13,252,100 with the net municipal tax required of $5,418,865. $418,865.
Don't vote on it yet.
Yep, I was going to, yeah, it's fine. And I'm going to add a second.
Yeah, do that first, though, to forego the council.
Yeah, no. I'd like to add to that motion the second, that is to forego the cost of living adjustment for the 2026 year for council remuneration. Okay.
Captured good. Just through the chair, did you need two motions there? Okay.
Okay, so we'll do it separately.
Yeah, so
I'll
just pull your motion back if you can and redo it.
just withdraw your motion.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm withdrawing my motion. You want me to start with the
Sure.
first?
Yeah, if you could, that'd be great. Thank you.
To forego the cost of living adjustment for the 2026 year for council I can't say that word. Remuneration.
Excellent. I think we debated this quite a bit, but I'll just ask if there's any other questions or comments around this motion before we move ahead. No? Okay, so all in favor? Opposed? Okay, carried. Part 2.
And then you move to approve the 2026 operating budget with total revenues before the municipal tax levy $7,883,235 and total expenses
questions or comments around that? No? Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, so carried. And that takes us to item 8.5, which is the 2027 to 2029 multi-year operating plan.
I move to adopt the 2027 to 2029 multi-year operating plan as presented.
I'll open the floor to debate. No? Oh, sorry.
We didn't really get to discuss this much before. We spent a lot of time on budget stuff, but we didn't really look into this.
It was there to review it, we didn't spend a lot of time on it.
Right. So,
And it worked out good.
just so everybody's aware, I don't know if we spent enough time on it, that's for sure.
So just for council's comfort, the multi-year operating plan, but we just have to have council review it and update it each year. You could look at it at any time in the new year, and it does not form part of the budget. So there's nothing in 27 to 29 that we can,
Can't change.
that we could go ahead and spend. When it comes to 2027 budget, that'll be council's purview to adopt a new budget year, and most likely, I've never seen them equal the multi-year operating plan. So at that time, you'll get total say over what the budget looks like. And for the most part, the operating plan is, we start with the current year budget and then add a layer of inflationary adjustments on the costs. So the multi-year plan, while it looks maybe high as far as the municipal tax levy required, there would be other adjustments when we actually get into the 2027 budgeting that would impact that.
I just want to say thanks for the clarification.
So it'd be fair to say that this is basically a forecast.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Any other comments or concerns? No? Okay. We'll pursue vote. All in favor? Opposed? So carried. Okay, that brings us to item 9, which is council reports. Everybody had a chance to review those? Can we get a motion on that? Roland? Sure. Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the December 15, 2025 council reports as information.
Are there any questions on the 2 reports?
Should the others that didn't submit a report?
Yeah.
Verbal? Council members will each provide a verbal report. Is what it says.
Yeah, I have a MPC report and a Parkland Regional Library report and the waste management, or the waste report. The MPC, November 26, 2025, Cheryl Natch stays on his chair for 1 more year. George Fawn's elected as the vice chair. 3 permits were passed, 1 appeal. The main thing that we voted on was the home and occupation dog and grooming daycare at Burnford. It was in a business in a shop, and they wanted to move it to their home location. That was approved, and they amended condition 6, which was hours of operation will be from 9 to 6 p.m. That was carried.
And that was the operational meeting as well.
For the MPC.
Your mic is on.
I'm sorry.
And for the Parkland Regional Library, talk about, one of the things that they talked specifically about Didsbury was 23rd Street, and just the ongoing discussion of that, because the other council was putting pressure on them to not be able to use the road. So that was a big concern for them, and I let them know that the new council is looking to be working with them. The dump is a major, if we don't allow them access, they'll find access some other way, and it will cost us. So yeah, it's that was a big discussion. We got their reports. The dump is doing very well. They have a lot of room, and we just voted on a wage increase as well. That passed.
Okay. Any other purple reports?
No, I had no committee meetings, just the 2 workshops.
I was also in MPC with Troy on those, and as well as we had a DDAC meeting, but it is mostly in camera, so lots of good discussions on what's possibly coming to town, but yeah, that's about as far as I can go with that.
I will add personally that I attended many of the same events that Councillor Quantz attended. The Country Christmas, which I thought was an excellent event, was well put together given the amount of lead-up time that they had to organize all of that. But it was a great and worthwhile event. But I also had the pleasure of participating in the CPKC Christmas train last week, which I thought was excellent. No, I did not get to pull the train whistle, unfortunately. But we had excellent turnout, I thought. The rail yard was quite full. They estimated our numbers to be around 900 people that had showed up in attendance. So that's, in my opinion, pretty strong support for our little town, so that's great. I will say that they do take account for very specific reasons, so we need to be mindful of that and make sure that we get out and support these events, because other towns are always vying for these spots. So bring your families out, come and support these events, make a donation to the food bank if you have the ability to do so. I know I did that day, so I was happy to do it. But yeah, great event, and got to ride the train to Airdrie, which was an interesting experience. And that was the last stop for a group of people that had been on there for, I think it was 57 shows was the number that I heard. So they'd done that quite a few times by the time they got to see us. So
They retired.
yes, they all retired.
I'll just add to that. I didn't attend the CPKC in an official capacity, but I was there in the audience with my daughter, and everyone I spoke to had a great time. We were stood up on the edge of the train station balcony, looking out over the group, and it was a lot of fun to be out there despite the cold. And I agree. I think it was a great showing, and I'd love to see just even more.
Yeah, the amount of funds and food that they raise is incredible. I can't remember the exact numbers now, but it was basically $1 million a year. And it was like, I think, I'm trying to remember the pounds of food. I think it was 50 tons of food that they raised, if I recall the numbers correctly. I saw it at one point. It was part of my speech, but the guy before me said it all, so I just had to cut it all out. So, anyway. All right. Anything further on council reports then?
Not on a report, I just want to touch on what you said about the Country Christmas. It was put on in a very short time, and I think it was very well received. The evening was good, it was cold, but I'm looking forward to next year being even better, and I think we should just really publicly thank all of the volunteers that gave their time up to make that happen, and I believe that's what you said. I'm just kind of piggybacking on you, but it was a great event, and I'm looking forward to next year.
Yeah, I think the list of volunteers is probably a little too long to go into.
Yeah.
Here we run out of time because there were a lot of people involved, including a whole bunch of people in this room. So I want to just thank everybody for their efforts, because it's definitely a great event. All right. You put the motion forward on this already, correct? To accept it, yes. You report, thank you. So all in favor of accepting these reports as information? Opposed? Okay, so carried. correspondence and information. Okay, if you would, Councillor Quantz.
I'd like to move to accept the correspondence for December 15th, 2025 as information.
Are there any questions or comments? I'll open up the floor to debate if there's anything on any of the communications that we received.
Curious that the Mid-Sized Town Mayor Caucus, I attended this meeting on behalf of our mayor and recognizing our former mayor, Mrs. Rhonda Hunter, for her time spent with the Mid-Sized Town Mayors as their chair. I'm wondering if this correspondence will be shared with her beyond council.
Yes, we can forward a copy to her.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Councillor Quantz?
And I want to, the correspondence section of this agenda was very long, one of the longest I've ever seen.
And there's been a fair bit of kind of
Most of that was from the RCMP presentation, and I tried to wade through that as much as I could, but I wanted to commend the RCMP for putting the data that they have out to the public instead of just coming and saying, hey, we want to be your police force. They actually put some, long data together, and I just wanted to make that a public expression of appreciation for the RCMP.
So noted. Any other comments? Yeah, Bill?
I've got two. I'll start with a quick one. Similar to what Councillor Quantz said, I've been really happy to see a lot of correspondence in general from members of the community, various entities, organizations, and I guess I just want to see that continue. I hope that it does. I like seeing open discourse in, accessible spaces, and I think it bodes well. And the second point is actually a curiosity of mine. I was really intrigued by the letter from, just make sure I get the name correct, Paige Murphy from the Didsbury Minor Hockey Association regarding the live barn streaming system for the arena. At its core, I'm really intrigued by this. I think, and I'd love to hear from other members of council as well. I know more than a little bit about streaming platforms, and I think that I looked at their website, I looked at their various offerings to venues, and I think it's a fascinating one that I would want more information on, certainly before any decisions would be made, but I'm really curious if anyone has either experience with this particular entity before through other venues. I know, for example, I don't have a lot of experience when it comes to sporting events, only the streaming element of it, so I was curious if anyone else has used this platform, experienced it, and if we could, down the road, get more information about it.
Yeah, I had some questions and concerns of my own, and maybe Councilor Mahan can answer some of that, but it's, privacy issues, recording minors in public, stuff like that kind of, bring the hairs up on the back of my neck a little bit.
So I think we're probably one of the last arenas to have it put in. I think it was probably 5 years ago, I was watching my nephew play hockey in the Airdrie rink through Live Barn. So it's been around for a long time. Like I say, I think we're probably one of the last rinks to go in. I know the Colts were on it, but now they've moved to another platform that the league is kind of pushed them to, called Flow Sports. But that's a whole different ballgame because they take over their website, their webpage. It's all amalgamated in now. The league's kind of taken that over. But Live Barn, it's just on the ice, so it's so grandma and grandpa can watch their grandkids, and like I say, I watched my nephew play hockey in Airdrie, so
I definitely see the value of it as a a parent who couldn't always be there for hockey games, right?
And that's what a lot of the parents, you know, if one or more kids in hockey, one's in Sylvan Lake, one's in Airdrie, well then they can be watching on their phone. They can be watching, like Sylvan's got Flow and this one as well, Live Barn. So that's primarily, I think, and aunts and uncles and whoever else want to watch it. Like I say, I think we're probably one of the last arenas to get it in. And it's a league thing. It's not just we're bringing this as a streaming. It goes through. There's all sorts of leagues on it, like from right up to E18 from the little kids. So I think we should seriously look at letting it come in because, like I say, we're kind of the last place.
Yeah, I'd love to, with the opportunity to speak, it was in the letter, it was offered for Dave Murphy to speak with us in some sort of meeting and for the Live Barn team. I personally would love to hear from both because I think there are valid privacy concerns as well as structural concerns. I believe the system's automated anytime anyone goes on the ice by default, which seems very good on paper, but what about just public skating? What about, a private event? What about when the ice isn't in the arena? There are a lot of questions I have about how the system itself works and how it could be set to benefit Didsbury and the Memorial Complex. I think if what is presented is accurate, it could come at essentially no cost to the town with potentially significant benefit. I just think it would be, I think we can't overlook it. I would love to look into it.
Okay. Well, perhaps we could invite them to come as a delegation to a future meeting.
If I may, actually, Councillor Mahone, Council first.
Sure.
I just wanted to see if Amanda had any other thoughts on this, as you have kids in minor hockey.
Yeah, so this is obviously outside my role as CFO, but as a parent,
That's what I was looking for.
yeah, as a parent, and I have used like Live Barn before. The person watching would pay a subscription, and you'd be able to access it from your phone or some sort of device. And you are able to go back a number of days and watch past events as well. So let's say there was like tryouts or that sort of thing that you wanted to go back and watch, or allow your child to see how their game went and do like a play-by-play. It is in most arenas that you go to now. But so, yeah.
Okay.
I think for the community, it's probably good, like Will said, to look into it, invite them as a delegation, how to explain to us and answer some of the security questions that you have. I would like to watch my grandchildren play, and sometimes they're in 4 different locations, so that's just selfish of me. This would, has to be good for the town, but I think we ought to at least have the delegation in here to explain and answer the questions.
No, sounds good. Yeah, I think we just need to be cognizant of anything like this that we put into a space. There are going to be some people that have privacy concerns. So, Michael.
So to that end, especially with the new privacy legislation, our privacy coordinator would be doing privacy impact assessment. That would be required before anything. And then there would likely be some conversations with the provider, their privacy policy, conversations with the stakeholder groups to get their support for consent to share that space and time when teams are playing. There is some administrative legwork that would need to be done. And perhaps the first group you may want to chat with before you talk with Live Barn, unless you're referring to them all along, is the Didsbury Minor Hockey Association. And just bring them in and see if they've done their homework too, because there's other purveyors out there. As Councillor Mahone said, the Colts team uses a different one. If we're paying for it, depending on the cost, there may be a procurement procurement policy requirement involved to get multiple quotes. I'm not sure. But all sounds point to, in a quick conversation I had with the director who couldn't be here tonight, she's unwell, unfortunate break just before the holidays. But the revenues received from subscription may not necessarily cancel out the cost. TELUS would have to flip the switch, put the fiber back onto the building in order to do that, but they have what's required there. It's administration will be working to get in touch with TELUS and then have that conversation, present, I guess, a more detailed breakdown in the new year on what those costs would be, how this stuff works, and then which community stakeholder group should be consulted and what privacy requirements we would have to meet.
I guess maybe, so two things. Number one, I'm sorry to hear the director's unwell. Pass along our condolences, hope she feels better. Yeah, I think this is something for future consideration. We can perhaps, as a first step, have the association come in and speak to it, and then we can go from there and do our due diligence. Okay. Sorry, let's see about
This is a world I live in on a daily basis with post-secondary sport.
Sure.
And so there's a lot of areas that our CEO has mentioned already that I think need to be addressed by our people to deal with privacy. The key thing would be that with this one, I assume it's like the majority of them, you can set up the times when it is in session and out of session. But that would be very important that it would be controlled by a party that is recognizing that, which would likely be our administration setting those timelines. Because in the past, in particular with this one, there have been times when it's been inadvertently videoing an arena, and then it became a privacy thing because those people that were using the arena at that time did not sign any documentation that their image could be used. So yeah, there would be things as our CEO has referenced, but this is of this time and age, and we need to be considering something, whether it's live burn or some other alternative.
Okay. Any other comments around it?
By curiosity of live barn, the name of it, I think it comes from the farming community where they have cameras looking at their cattle and animals. Am I correct? Is that close?
Barn is an old hockey term.
Yes. They're playing in their barn. That's where you used to play.
Okay, I think we'll digress and move on from this. It sounds like we've exhausted all the discussion around it. Are there any other correspondence anybody wants to address? No? Okay. All in favor of adopting the information? Opposed? So carried. That takes us on to question period, which is item 11. Are there any questions from the gal?
Well, I do. No, I wouldn't have any questions at all.
Next.
I got a few. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for giving me the opportunity to address you. I have a few things that I wanted to say. One of the things that I found alarming in the statistics from enforcement is the number of warnings as opposed to the violation tickets. The warnings seriously outnumber the number of tickets given, and I think that maybe there needs to be a switch in that. As far as the business licenses and diminishing or eliminating business licenses, I'd be interested to know how Council plans to monitor the business enterprises that are operating in town. I think that you have crippled your economic development officer in being able to do her job effectively. I think that it is a disservice to the community to not have an accurate and adequate list of what enterprises are operating in town, and I expect that we're going to see people that are coming here that aren't licensed, and that people here will utilize enterprises that are not necessarily local businesses because of that. My feeling. I'm extremely disappointed. Maybe I should start back up, and I'll try a different way here. I'm really pleased to see that 17th Street sidewalk was added to the capital budget. I appreciate that. That was something that I brought forward last meeting, and I appreciate that that was included in the budget. I was disappointed that 19th Street wasn't included. I don't even know if it was considered. I do realize that there are some complications associated with 19th Street, but I would have liked to have heard some discussion as to why it wasn't included or why it was overlooked. That would have been a valuable thing for me, having brought that forward. I'm extremely disappointed that the public wasn't engaged and given the opportunity to look at the budget, capital and operating budget. It is now passed. And I'm going to give you some examples. One of the things that talks about in the capital budget is lighting, LED lighting in the complex. That complex is a big facility, and the arena was already done last year. So I'm wondering what part of the complex is getting the new LED lighting, because it doesn't give us anything like that in the background or anything else. In terms of reserves, I appreciate that the council has gone forward with a capital budget where it isn't impacting to a great degree the taxation and taxes to the residents. However, through the capital budget and the operating budget, the reserves have been diminished by close to $850,000. That's the future. And to be reduced by $850,000, I'd have to do some calculating and figuring, but how many street sidewalks that is when you consider that the sidewalk was increased by $75,000, and part of that was out of reserves. $50,000 of that was out of reserves. It cripples your future. It really does. That's one example. I think that it would have been really good opportunity for you to have brought this budget, both budgets, to the community to let them look at it. Again, I'm extremely disappointed with it, that it wasn't brought to the community to have a look at and discuss. Anybody that tells you that the survey that was done on the budget and that was adequate is deceiving themselves. The survey is superficial and has nothing. These are the numbers that we have to look at, and I'm very disappointed that it was passed tonight. Both of them were passed tonight. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Well, I have to say something on too. So, I don't come enough, and I'll sit down first. I don't think I need the mic. Do I need the mic?
Oh.
Does anybody not know who I am? No, just kidding. This is Deb Pelche, resident, Didsbury. I haven't come to every meeting, but now I have another question. Has the public ever been given the opportunity to input on the budget in the past 4 years ever?
Yes.
Other than the survey?
We had public meetings before.
And who was told about that?
The community.
Okay. You know what? It's really easy to judge. But no, I feel that's been lacking in the 22 years I've moved back. And it's, in my opinion, I don't know how you get through it all. I know how hard it is to get public engagement. So I filled out the survey. I didn't do more, so I'm guilty. But I don't recall there being much effort in the past either. I actually had no questions, but now that we talked about this handicap parking thing, I just have to add a comment on that. I do a lot of home care, and if every single senior in this town that had a home care pass applied for a pass, we wouldn't have enough concrete. I don't disagree, and I understand that there's a need, but I think if we start stepping outside of commercial boundaries and people have the ability to apply for a pass in front of their home, we're just giving them another reason to fight, and there's not going to be any parking spots available that aren't handicapped. If every single person that had a card holder in this town applied that has a residence, so just keep that in mind. I don't think it's a good idea, personally. And that's it. I just wanted to say hi and thanks so much and appreciate you guys being here.
Thank you for the feedback. Appreciate it.
I think we need a motion. Yes, please, if you wouldn't mind.
I move that council go to close at 6:11.
All in favor? Opposed? Okay, so carried. Excellent. We'll call the meeting back to order at 7:24 p.m. We have one final piece of business that's on the schedule, which is the proposed grant application. And where we go with that. Erwin, did you want to? No? Okay. Just
I would move that the council decline the Can Expo grant opportunity to attend the Hanover Messe Germany in 2026 and the Joint Invest Alberta Cape, Red Deer Polytechnic, and the Trade Mission.
That's good. Thank you. I'll open the floor to debate before we vote. Is there any further comments on this or questions, concerns? No? Okay. All in favor of the motion to decline? Opposed? Okay, so carried. That brings us to our final motion for the night, which would be adjournment.
I motion that we council goes or adjourns the meeting at 7:25.
Okay, all in favor?